Hey there. Let me ask you a question. How often do you tell yourself that you have to do something? The answer to that question can be a very quick way to determine the quality of your life. Because if you're spending a lot of your thoughts telling yourself that you have to do something, you actually are running an internal system of oppression. It's not a good feeling. And the effect of it is that we feel burdened by life, we feel oppressed, and often what happens then is that we blame our life for feeling so burdened by it. But okay, there is a way out of this. So before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit more about how this shows up because you may not even be conscious of telling yourself this. But it's important to actually check in and see how much that's going on for you. Because when you're telling yourself that you have to do things in your life, you're always feeling like you're scrambling to meet your own demands. You're trying to chip away at this like never-ending, relentless to-do list. Have you noticed this? I have lived this myself. So if you're saying yes, I can relate. Now, why do we do this to ourselves? Well, one reason is that it's actually more efficient because it shortcuts the effort, the mental effort of decision making. And when we have to make a lot of decisions, we run the risk of what's called decision fatigue, which is, you've probably felt it before, when you're trying to decide between a lot of different options and you just can't really, the more information you get, the more confused you are, and it just actually ends up stressing you out. So this is a way of actually removing options and telling ourselves, well, there aren't any options. This is what I have to do. So it's actually quite efficient from a cognitive perspective. And it also is less effort. It's a brilliant shortcut because it conserves energy, right? We don't have to spend a lot of time. It's very time consuming, actually, when we're having to make choices. Have you noticed that if you have something on your grocery list, let's say toothpaste, and you get to the toothpaste aisle and there's 50 different kinds of toothpaste, and you're trying to figure out, well, so which one do I need, right? You're standing there for however long trying to decide on a toothpaste. So when we tell ourselves that we have to do something, it does create this shortcut, and it does actually make us more efficient. So it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that it becomes a problem when we actually forget. We get so good at relying on it that we forget that we have choice. That is where it becomes a problem. So being able to recognize that we actually do have choice, and that in fact, there's very few things, maybe on one hand, that we actually have to do, right? In our human lives, we have to eat to survive. We generally need shelter, but we tell ourselves that we have to do things all day long. And this again can lead to some burdening emotional and psychological effects that are quite negative. So the way to break free from this is first and foremost to uncover the lie, which I hope that you will consider, that when your brain is telling you this, it's worth it to really investigate whether it's true, where that's coming from, and whether it's helpful to keep telling yourself that. I want to give you a quick exercise that will maybe open up this curiosity about telling yourself that you have to do something. So bring to mind something that you believe that you have to do today, and walk with me through these questions. So when you think the thought, I have to fill in the blank, how do you feel? Like, what is the emotion that you feel the strongest? An emotion is a one-word descriptive of a constellation of vibrations in your body that you feel when you tell yourself this. Maybe you feel burdened. Maybe you feel overwhelmed. Maybe you feel resentful, right? So just notice when you tell yourself, I have to do this, how do you actually feel? And when you feel that emotion, how do you show up in the doing of that task, right? Do you kind of drag your feet? Do you procrastinate? Do you notice your mind thinking about when you want to be done with it, or wishing that you didn't have to do it, that sort of thing? Just notice, right, how you show up in the doing of that task. And then kind of ask yourself, well, what is this actually creating for me when I'm showing up in things that I tell myself I have to do and I'm feeling this way, right? What is the result of that? Is that creating the life that I want? Is that creating a result that I like? Because recognizing that this isn't something you have to keep telling yourself that you have to do, that there are actually options. Now, I want you to notice this. This is the second part of this exercise. When you shift that original statement to I want to. So instead of telling yourself I have to do this, try on the thought I want to do this. And then notice what you feel instead. What is the emotion that that brings up for you? Maybe it brings up desire. Maybe it brings up motivation. Maybe it brings up interest or determination, or maybe commitment. Just notice what you feel when you tell yourself, I want to do this. And when you feel that, pay attention to how would I imagine showing up in this task? What might be different than when you tell yourself you have to? Maybe you're more present in the task itself. Maybe you're appreciating the reason that you're wanting to do this in the first place. We often have very good reasons for wanting to do the things that we do. We just don't give our brains space to consider what those reasons are. And then if you're showing up in that way, wondering, right, what is that maybe creating for myself in my life if I'm showing up in the tasks that I'm doing in my day in this way? All right, I hope that's helpful and interesting. And there I go with those ands, right? I'm working on it. I'm glad that you're here with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.